Happy Halloween, horror fans. I hope you lot are doing well on this spooky day, and if you aren't watching this on Halloween, I still hope you're doing well. I love y'all. Alright, so I'm gonna be frank. I was not intending on watching this movie, much less review it, but I really couldn't bring myself to pass up on a prime opportunity to be a hater. As someone who's been a fan of slasher movies since I was in grade school, I've really come to appreciate and recognize the effort it takes to conceive one that actually stands out. Let's be honest with ourselves. Out of all the countless slashers that have been made over the decades, how many of them have actually stuck around and developed a legacy? Jason, Freddy, Michael, Chucky, the pantheon of Western slasher royalty is without a doubt the greatest examples of slashers done well. But what about the opposite side of that coin? There have been a myriad of other slashers that we've seen come and go with the passing of time, and that's to be expected, of course. It certainly can be a formulaic and repetitive subgenre, and I think that's a huge part of why the characters I previously mentioned have remained household names for multiple decades. These are films and franchises that not only stood out amongst their peers, but also came to define the very subgenre they helped pioneer, for better or worse. In my Freddy vs. Jason retrospective, I briefly touched upon the decline in the amount of slasher movies we've received over the years, thanks to the new trend of elevated horror and overall fatigue for the subgenre. It's only natural for a genre such as horror to move on to new trends as time marches forward, but for slasher films to be pushed as much to the wayside as they have is honestly kinda bonkers. But back in 2016, the world was left in shock and awe when the first Terrifier film was released, a movie so gory and nasty that it makes the Evil Dead look like a night at the Roxbury. Since its release, Terrifier has become a massive fan favorite for those who love pure, unadulterated schlock, and as much as I didn't care for it, I could completely see why. Before we take a dive into the debauchery that is the sequel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and maybe leave a comment down below about what you thought of the video and the movie itself. Now let's put on our finest clown paint and our shiniest pair of clown shoes, and let's take a look at Terrifier 2.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
For full transparency, I did not care for the first Terrifier movie at all, really. It was a little too mean-spirited towards the women, and quite frankly, the coochie saw scene was a little too much for me. But as much as I didn't care for it, I gotta admit, I'm impressed there's still genre enthusiasts out there that are willing to take these sort of risks with their content, especially considering movies like this aren't nearly as common anymore. With the decline of grindhouse cinema since the end of the 1980s, these movies seemingly help fill a void that has long since been left empty with the supposed sophistication of general audiences. When it comes to our killer, Art the Clown, I've always greatly admired David Howard Thornton's dedication to the role. From staying in character during interviews, to taking inspiration from comedic and acting legends such as Charlie Chaplin, Rowan Atkinson, and Doug Jones, it's very clear that Thornton is very dedicated to his work. It sort of reminds me of Robert Englund and his dedication to the role of Freddy Krueger throughout his time with the character, before he retired the role in 2003 after Freddy vs. Jason. I think it goes without saying that Art the Clown has solidified himself as a modern horror icon with this recent film, whether us squeamish folk like it or not. And with the director interested in making even more movies in this franchise, it's safe to say that this ghoulish clown and his macabre antics are here to stay. You also can't help but admire the practical effects on display in these movies. The amount of blood, guts, and overall gore is honestly impressive and even downright comedic at times. If I had to pick a favorite kill from this sequel, it would have to be the Halloween store clerk. It's not just the fact that this kill is brutal and gory like the rest of the death scenes in this movie, but the window gag with the clerk's decapitated head at the end of it all was the icing on the cake. Although my favorite scene overall has to be when Art is handing out candy to the neighborhood kids using one of the mom's severed heads as a bowl. He just seems so cheery and filled with the joy of Halloween. Isn't he just a swell guy? This may come as a surprise to a lot of you, but as someone who didn't really care for the first film, I actually don't have as many gripes with the sequel as I was expecting going into my initial viewing. Much like its predecessor, Terrifier 2 doesn't really have a lot going on when it comes to the overall plot. It's pretty cut and dry, and that is definitely to its benefit. It picks up immediately after where we left off from our previous outing and jumps straight into the brutality. These movies know exactly what they want to be, what they want to do, and who they're for, and with each passing day, I find myself respecting their vision more and more. Yeah, sucker, you heard that right. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said reviewing this movie will be a prime opportunity for me to be a hater? Well, psych, buddy. You got gaslit because I fucking love this movie. Terrifier 2 manages to scratch an itch that has not been scratched since my early days as a horror fan, sitting there with my jaw on the floor thanks to the amount of violence on the screen. Also, huge shoutouts to the casting of this movie. Seeing Chris Jericho cameo was so funny, Felissa Rose is as beautiful as ever, of course, and I have to give a huge amount of credit to Lauren Lavera who plays the main character, Sienna. She acts her ass off in this movie, and her performance really helps bring an actual emotional tether to the film, since a lot of the character drama in this movie is centered around her relationship with her younger brother. Fun fact I learned whilst doing research for this video is that Lavera is an actual accomplished martial artist and a complete and total badass. God, I wish I were half as cool as her. With the third film in the planning stages, I pray that she is given the opportunity to reprise her role, since she did such a good job and actually ended up surviving the ordeal. And that, my little ghoulies, are my thoughts on Terrifier 2. Quite the fun little gory romp made by and for horror genre enthusiasts. Though if you're squeamish, I'd highly recommend setting this one out. Thank you to everyone who took the time to go through this video and make it this far. It means the world to me. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the movie. I'm genuinely curious to hear what everyone's favorite kills were, and maybe even what you hope to see in the next Terrifier movie. Thank you all for the constant support you've given me these last 6 months. You're all amazing, and I can't wait to put out more horror content for you guys. Until next time, be kind to one another, love yourself, and keep enjoying horror. Bye guys.